So oftentimes I'm asked by people who are either desiring to be missionaries or at least wanting to be more conscious of that in their everyday life. How can I be more involved in Great Commission work in my own life? I think it's a great question. And I would say that number one, I think the most foundational but often neglected means of missions is prayer. And I'll say that again. I tell my classes the most foundational but often neglected means of missions is prayer. You can be involved in Great Commission work every single day, right where you are, by getting on your knees and going to the Lord in prayer. Prayer is not just something that is an extra, as an add-on. It is something that is essential to the mission of God. God has designed it that when we pray, He hears us and He actually engages in work around the world. And so every Christian, no matter where you are, can be more involved in the mission of God every single day through prayer. And so I would encourage people to be more intentional about their prayer. I think there are a variety of resources that you can look at. Obviously, we have the scriptures, number one. I would just encourage anyone listening to this, if you ever have an opportunity, maybe have some time, to go through the book of Acts, which we often think of as the book of mission because it describes Paul's missionary journeys. Go through the book of Acts and look chapter by chapter and see how many times prayer shows up in the life of the disciples during that book. You will be blown away at how often prayer is seen every step along the way. There are other resources, websites like Joshua Project. They give all kinds of stats and data and figures about countries and peoples and places. There's an older resource that I like to use called Operation World. There's actually an older book that has profiles for every country with prayer points for each country as well. I often would use that in my quiet time, reading through a passage and then looking at Operation World and praying through a particular country or people around the world. So number one, I would say, is prayer. Number two, I would say, is just living every day with an evangelistic mindset. Living every day with intentionality. God has put all of us in a web of relationships. The people that are in our families, the people that live in our neighborhoods, the people that go to school with us, the people that work with us. We are interacting with people all the time. And people that we interact with are on a broad spectrum as it relates to their relationship with God. And so I think if we look at those relationships with intentionality, God is going to open up doors and opportunities for us to have spiritual gospel conversations with those people. And I think prayer and evangelism kind of go hand in hand. And so I would encourage people not only just to pray in the mornings, but to pray specifically for opportunities to have gospel conversations throughout the day. God will bring people in your path. He'll allow you to meet people along the way that you need to have a conversation with. And I would just encourage us to have intentionality as we think about those two things. So have a plan for prayer and have a plan for how am I going to share the gospel with the people that God has put in my life. Number three, giving. God has entrusted all of us, whether we see ourselves as rich and wealthy or not, God has entrusted all of us with resources that we can leverage and utilize for the mission of God. And so I think one of the ways that Christians can be involved in what God is doing here and around the world is by generously giving, sacrificially giving the resources that God has entrusted to them. And that could be something big in terms of making a big financial contribution. That could be something that is very small, as giving a tithe to your local church. And everything in between. God is allowing us to partner with Him and with others on mission every time we are giving our financial resources. Number four, I would say, is short-term missions. Now, short-term missions in some ways has gotten some bad press in recent years, but I'm very much a believer in short-term missions because I believe it gives Christians an opportunity to practically work out some of the things that maybe they're learning in their church. And it gives them an opportunity to do that in a global context. It's one thing to hear a pastor preach about unreached or lost people on the other side of the world. It's another thing to actually get off an airplane in that context or in that location and actually have a gospel conversation. And so I would be a very big believer, a very big supporter of Christians involving themselves in short-term mission opportunities through their local church or through a missions organization. And so as I think about ways for Christians to be more involved in missions on an everyday basis, I tend to think about prayer, evangelism, giving, and short-term missions.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this content, visit sbts.edu/sample to access free theology lectures from Southern Seminary.